Starts with trust. You can't get people to follow you if they don't trust you. And once you have trust, you have to allow people the chance to succeed. By the way, part of the risk-taking. If you give somebody a chance to succeed, they can fail too. And so the question is, oftentimes the greatest learning comes not with successes, but with failures. And that's not a new concept many of you have heard. A leadership builds and develops the team. Little different when I was your age, and I hate to say it, but I've been with IBM, almost 2x most of your ages. I'm old, right? So I have to live with that fact, or that reality every day. But the concept of team, was different. There wasn't as much focus on team in the work world when I was at your age and looking out and going into the business world. Now teams are integral to everything we do, and everybody works in teams. And part of that dynamic is the fact that the team isn't sitting around this table. The team is often on the West Coast, on the East Coast, in India, in China, in South Africa, wherever it might be. This idea of a global integrated team is a reality of a lot of business world today. And so it creates a dynamic to say, how do you energize a team, especially those that you can't see every day, to work cohesively together towards a common goal with a common vision. And it takes a particular knack and set of abilities and characteristics. And you're being awfully quiet. And I would ask you, if I say something that you disagree with, or you say, well, tell me more about that, please challenge me. If this is interactive, it's working. If you're sitting there just listening to me talk, it's not working. So, and my son will tell me, David, Dad, you were terribly boring. Nobody even asked a question. So, so feel free if I stop me. I do want to make this as interactive as possible. So, and hi, Tim. I hadn't seen you there. Okay. He goes to our church, so we know each other from back away. How many people have ever, in any situation, dealt with somebody and they just felt like they're not telling me the real story, the real truth? They're not really being open and honest with me. Anybody ever experienced that? Oh, yeah, okay. One of the characteristics of leadership that I try to practice, I don't do as good at it as I'd like, but that's this idea of what I call straight talk. And straight talk says, you may not like what I'm going to tell you, but A, you need to hear it, you need to internalize it, you need to use it to grow with. And when I say straight talk, I don't do it, and good leaders don't do it to be cruel, and it's not a punishment. But it is the reality base that says, hey, if this is where we are, and we're on this path, and it ain't working for us, we've got to be honest with ourselves about what's not working. So I will tell you, if you sort all these out, the idea of leading by example and probably straight talk would probably go to the top of my list if I were to put these in priority, because I have valued people that were straightforward and honest with me, told me what I needed to hear, even when sometimes I didn't want to hear it. Sometimes that was my parents, by the way, and maybe you've had those teaching moments with your parents, okay? But straight talk is certainly a component, and I don't think it's necessarily distinct to leadership, but is a quality that every good leader has to have, because otherwise you lose a couple of those other items like trust and teamwork. Without straight talk, true high-performing teams never really materialize for the long haul. What's horizontal thinking as opposed to vertical thinking? Anybody want to take a stab? I say one of the characteristics I'd like to see is horizontal thinking. Anybody want to take a stab? Horizontal thinking. It's not really difficult. How about vertical thinking then? Okay, you want to try vertical thinking. Go ahead.
Is horizontal just thinking with other people in mind?
It is. That's one component of it. Some people, I like horizontal thinking. Some people call it out of the box. It's one, thinking out of the box is one element of it. But There used to be a common practice in the manufacturing world. I spent the first 20 years or so of my career in the manufacturing world, called vertical integration. And that's that a company would try to own every component of its supply chain. In some cases, all the way, I'll give Eastman Kodak as an example. Eastman Kodak is in the business, used to be in the business of making film, right? Obviously, that business model has changed. But part of their making film was they had a large manufacturing facility in Rochester, New York, and they consumed a lot of energy. I mean, a lot of energy. And it turns out that Eastman Kodak was one of the biggest purchasers of coal, because they use coal in a lot of their, to power a lot of their manufacturing plant facilities. They had a unique opportunity back in the 70s and 80s, and they actually owned their supply line all the way back to the coal mines. That's true vertical integration. So they own from the raw ore to the processed ore all the way to how it was consumed. That idea of vertical manufacturing has really changed in manufacturing as it has gone a very different direction. And now almost every manufacturing component, of somebody that builds something comes from a lot of different sources and a lot of different suppliers that don't have your company name on it. And so people have had to think, along a horizontal change as opposed to a vertical change across organizations, across people, to make your point, because it doesn't have to do with just goods and services. It could be purely a people dynamic. But the idea of horizontal thinking and collaborative, getting that team, that horizontal team, to work collaboratively. So those are two other components. A leader is passionate. Anybody here ever know who's the most passionate? Somebody volunteer about who's the most passionate person they know. Somebody want to? So, okay.
It's the youth pastor of mine.
Youth pastor? What makes him passionate? Do you know?
What makes it pastor? Just his knowledge and faith in God and wanting to, guide the hearts and minds of young kids.
Does his passion enhance your desire to listen and learn? Or, yeah, it does, doesn't it? When I think of passion, you know who comes to mind? And unfortunately, to my best of my knowledge, he's not a Christian, so I feel a little bit bad about that. Is anybody here heard of Tony Robbins? Anybody here heard of Tony Robbins? Okay. Would you say that Tony Robbins is passionate about his?
Well, I would say Tony Robbins, he's a very inspirational talker.
Yeah.
Not so much he focuses on religion, but he does get people's hopes up. He fills you with ideas that you feel like failure in the past is a stepping stone for my future career. Or he talks people into believing that mediocrity, it's not an option, and I still have so much God-given potential inside myself that I have not been discovered yet.
You think he's a leader?
If he talks, I'll buy it.
I think you just defined a leader. Okay. Now, obviously, we probably can make examples of people that have been, quote, leaders and led some folks astray too. So, and I'm not here to preach Tony Robbins. I'm truly not. But the idea of he is so passionate and believes so much in his program and what it can do to energize people and energize organizations